First of all, I want to make it clear and I want to state my conviction that I do not believe that the whole resignation by Floyd Shivambu, the former president of the Economic Freedom Fighters, is somehow Zuma's grand plan, and that it was a plan by the EFF, and that Julius Malema was not betrayed by the former president of the EFF, Floyd Shivambu, who is also happening to be his friend, long-term friend and colleague, that they planned this together. Well, I don't believe that. Even though to a lesser extent, I believe that this whole thing, it is a grand plan, but I don't think it is a grand plan that was planned by these parties. The truth is that Zuma's return to politics and making history by winning third position in the 2024 national and provincial elections started to make people believe, especially the black masses on the ground, that every political goal scored by the MK, such as the departure of Floyd Shivambu moving from EFF to MK party, is one of the chess moves by the former president, whilst in fact it may not even be the case. There are many conditions and layers that continue to keep the South African political landscape very unstable. There's so many of them. For instance, in this particular case, it has been known that Floyd and Julius Malema have not been on good terms since the last EFF election conference. So the fact that Julius felt almost threatened by Floyd's possibility of challenging him in the next coming elective conference this December 2024 may have given Shivambu a more justified reason to quit the party that he founded himself and worked for it from the grounds for over 10 years. And even if it was a grand plan by the MK, we have to take into account that many people, including those that have been part of the organization, have now been expelled and kicked out. All of them have now alluded, including Jabulani Khumalo, who claims that he is actually the founder of the MK party, and he is the leader of the MK party. He still recognizes himself as the leader of the MK party. They have all alluded that the MK's political direction does not solely reside in Jacob Zuma's hands, but in her daughter's Duduzile's hands instead. And this is because they all believe that she calls the shots, President Zuma doesn't, and it was her grand plan to hijack the whole project from the beginning, the whole MK project from the beginning. It was her plan to hijack it and move it towards the direction that she desired. Jabulani Khumalo also stated these same allegations during his recent interview with Biz News. The way I see things here is that Floyd actually believes in mobilizing as an individual. He believes in mobilizing both the EFF and MK, so that come 2029 national elections, the two parties can at least gain 50% combined or 50% plus combined. Therefore, be able to overthrow what we call today the GNU government or the GNU group, or what many may call the DA and the ANC Grand Coalition. Of course, this is not a view that most people that are involved in this particular situation would share. I don't think at some point President Jacob Zuma would share the same view, because he would remember that EFF, led by Julius Malema, is the same party that took him out of power, is the same party that challenged him in parliament and made sure that his reign as the president of South Africa during that time was the most difficult time of his life. So I don't think Jacob Zuma sided with this or sides with this, and I don't think also Julius Malema also sided with the same view, because if you remember, him and Zuma, as much as they recognize each other there and there, they are core enemies, and that relationship, that hostile relationship, was formed during the time when Julius Malema was kicked out and expelled out of the ANC and formed his own party with Floyd Shivambu, and continued to harass Jacob Zuma and declared him as the enemy of the EFF, individually, professionally, politically speaking. So I don't think Julius Malema sided with this plan. But Floyd, being the visionary, and Floyd being the person who has a brain and has been respected for so many years and seen as the brains behind the EFF, I believe he saw it as a vision and say, this is the next move that I need to make. And in this move, it's not going to be a move that many people like. I might need to sacrifice an organization that I have started and led for over 11 years. So for me, the EFF and the MK party coming together through Floyd's visionary eye, I believe it's something that South Africans want right now. Majority of South Africans, especially black masses, are yearning for a hero that is strong and courageous enough to challenge the injustices of the past, both pre-1994 by the apartheid government and post-1994 by the ANC government. This may not be, of course, the desire of all South Africans, but it is the desired reality and conviction of many, and definitely the majority of the African people and South African people in particular. They want an equal level of playing ground. And MK and EFF coming together seems like a grand plan. So, if this is not the grand plan by the MK or by the EFF leadership, what is it then? Well, I just told you, it's Floyd Shivambu's plan. It's Floyd Shivambu's plan. It's not Duduzile's plan. It's not Julius Malema's plan. It's not the EFF's plan. It's not Jacob Zuma's biggest chess move. I guess he just found himself, at the right place at the right time. But I do believe that this is solely Shivambu's plan. I believe it is the plan that, he orchestrated. As soon as I heard about the resignation letter and saw media tablets, and this is another reason that, we need to also look at, or another part of this situation that we need to look at. As soon as I saw the resignation letter, I called one of the EFF branch members who is currently busy completing his master's degree and actively involved in the politics of the party. I asked him this question. I said, is this true or not? He said, yes, it's true. He confirmed that indeed it is true. And I later got to watch, the actual media briefing by the EFF, where Floyd and Julius Malema were speaking, and looking at their faces, really, if this is a grand plan that, the EFF and Julius Malema is aware of, I would say that they are all good actors. They can act. They can really act. They deserve the Oscars. They can really act. But that's not what I saw. What I saw was a man who was hurt, who was truly hurt about the decision that was taken by his former colleague, someone that started the party with him from the beginning. He didn't seem like an individual that really, was behind the grand master plan. He was shrinking. And I had to call my correspondent for the second time. And when I spoke to him now, I asked him, is the EFF already infiltrated? Long story short, news to my ears, the answer was yes, the EFF indeed is infiltrated. So we're looking at another layer again that might have led Shivambu to actually leave the party that he started himself. He founded himself for a new baby. But why? Because as much as it is the reason for him to leave the party, it is not the reason for him to join the MK party. So when we take the words that he actually put out in a tweet, we realize that it was about fighting or surrendering. And if I'm paraphrasing correctly, it was something like, there comes a time when we fight, when we have to fight or surrender. This is the time to fight. And if you look at these two words, you can easily match his decision with each word. Surrendering in this case will mean remaining inside the EFF. Fighting means joining the MK party. But if he really meant that him remaining in the EFF is a form of surrendering, does that mean that the political party that began 11 years ago as the only South African hope that represented the hopes of the majority of the black masses in South Africa and also around the African continent, Does that mean that it has finally been captured and it has surrendered to the system? Does this mean that the EFF is no longer aligned with its true founding manifesto? Does this mean that it is no longer about fighting for economic freedom? Does this mean that the EFF is no longer a party that represents the desired reality of the black majority and at least the population that voted for it first time in parliament? If Floyd equates remaining in the EFF as the form of surrendering, meaning to betray the struggle, the revolution, does this mean that the party he founded 10 years ago has become comfortable with just being an opposition? And what did he mean by saying fight? Well, for me, he meant joining the MK party. And what does it mean to join the MK party? We need to also remember that the MK party is an infant in this game. Yes, it is driven by, an elder who has been part of politics for the longest time, but it is an infant, like a mind that has not been conditioned. And Shivambu sees an opportunity to exercise his visionary skills and competence by contributing to the foundational building of this brain, which mainly it has been proven that all South Africans, not all, but many South Africans rather, through the last national and provincial elections, have proven that they have recognized this potential. And in return, what does he expect? Well, his vision, in my own analysis, in my own understanding, in the way that I'm looking at things, his vision is to build a half piece that can, maybe not formally, but through partnership, join hands with his former party so as to formally remove the GNU government or the ANC and the DA party that coalition that is currently ruling right now. And you'll remember that Floyd is a thinker and has been for the longest time respected as the brains behind the EFF. So while Julius remained the face of the party, he remained the brains behind the party. So he goes to the MK party to contribute the same. So the point that I wanted to make with this video was that the whole plan, I don't believe it's a grand plan by the EFF or the MK party or, it is not their plan. It is Floyd Shivambu's plan. Because if it was the grand plan, then it would mean that all of them will have to come together and reconcile and forgive each other. But looking at the size of the egos, Jacob Zuma's ego is very big. Julius Malema's ego is very big. They cannot come together and see this vision brought together by Floyd Shivambu. And even if Floyd was to say, okay, as the EFF, let's go and, merge with the MK party, the decision-making power lies within the president, not the presidency. So even if he is the deputy president, he wouldn't still have, he would still not have the power to decide that, okay, this is the direction the party that is going to take. Julius Malema still decides. He is the dictator, and a lot of people have alluded. But we are seeing that. We are seeing that happening right now. So this might be looked down in future as one of the biggest changing moments of the South African political landscape.